I'm Ranyo,
I'm Duran.
and today we have another what it's like or what it's like to be. And today we're going to talk about web development. Whether you're an intern, whether you are a professional developer, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's going to be kind of the same stuff. And the kind of the ranks you have to go through to be, a senior level or an intermediate level web developer, and how to get started if you want to do it, and what to do if you don't like that. There's other options. Okay.
I guess I want to start off for anyone who's interested. Web development is probably about the lowest barrier to entry of the IT jobs out there.
Is it really development?
Well, that's the thing is a lot of web development isn't, right? So most of it sits in the scripting languages. You're doing like PHP, Perl, and that's if you're lucky actually. A lot of it winds up doing the CMS, that content management system stuff. So you're talking WordPress, Drupal, and when you're doing WordPress and Drupal management and development, a lot of it's, you'll get a lot of what are called WYSIWYGs, which is what you see is what you get, right? There's no, that was purposely actually designed so that there was no technical barrier to entry.
And yeah, I mean, it made it faster, but it's still, that's why when people ask me to build websites to this day, I'm like, you can literally go and get a web builder right now, like a WordPress or something like that, Drupal, Wix, any of them, and you can design your own stuff. It's no technical ability at all, unless you want to do something intricate, like using some type of scripting to do some type of thing that hasn't been done, or some type of functionality that you want to build that's not a part of the actual web content builder. So they made it easier, so that watered down web development. Not saying it wasn't already watered down, but it still watered it down. I mean, I guess the only, to me, the more technical part about web development would be the back-end developers, which are really not considered web developers. So that they just kind of connected too. So you have your front end and you have your back end, and your back end are more technical, and the front end are just kind of the people that, if you want to really say, you might as well call them web designers. And
yes. Well, you're exactly right. And that's really important. There are some people who are full stack developers, and they'll do all the way up and down the stack, right? So they do the user interface, they do the middleware, and they'll even work in the back end on your file systems and database, things of that nature. And then you have people who are working solely in PHP, which is still ridiculously popular language as far as website development is concerned. And then you have people who are doing actual programming languages instead of scripting languages. So that's your C#, your Java, not as much, but it's still quite prevalent, and things like that. And there is a difference in quality between them. But I'll tell you, so one of the things that I found is I can do the user interface, but it's really bad. I'm not built for the artsy side of it. I'm just not. I can't. The design looks like garbage. Yes, that's actually why we have him. He's here to make our stuff look good.
That I could do both, but I found that because I was an artist that I liked the designing portion. But I didn't like web designing as far as using just Photoshop. I liked to do it all manually and, like create everything manual. So that was my thing. And when I was in college, we had our courses. All of our stuff looked great. My stuff is fantastic. People's like, wow, you do this as a professional? And I'm like, I've just been doing this since I was a kid. Like, I love building websites. And front end was my thing. And that's kind of what happened with me becoming a web developer, doing front end stuff. But I also did back end stuff, but it was a disaster. That's the big part about it.
That's funny. The back end is where I'm king. That's where I do really well. And I think that's one of the big things is even with the full stack folks. So technically I do full stack development, including full stack web development. And I avoid the front end like the plague. I can do it, but I mean, there are so many people more talented at it than me because I just don't have that art skill. And I think that's the big thing to really note is, again, the barrier to entry is much lower because most websites are built in scripting languages, or they're built through a CMS, or they're built in a WYSIWYG, or they're built in something like that. But even with the ones that aren't, the ones that are hardcore, where you've got that a real no kidding application running on the back end, typically the barrier to entry is just so much lower because you could be a tester, or you could be like you said, a website designer. So you can be that front end guy. And even in the full stack side, you'll have people who are really good at one and really bad at the other. In fact, that's pretty much always the case. And the guys who are good at user interface and user experience, that's where they sit. And the rest of us will sit in the back. I'll ride in the back of the bus.
And see, this is this type of stuff that I do. I don't know if you can see, but
yeah.
It's focused on the user experience and the user design and stuff like that. And like I said, I like them both, but that was just my thing, is having that artiste to show your artistry. Like, you know, that's what I found interesting. But soon, like I said, I came to understand that it was more of an hassle than people really know, you know, and trying to build that interface for a user.
Yes,
that became an issue, and it made me want to be more of a back-end person because you don't have to deal with that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, you literally just make sure the back intricacies are working, connecting correctly with the application, and you really don't have to worry about the user. But as a front-end developer, you literally, everything is about what the user sees, and it's always some type of complaint, always some issues, little things you need to change, and it's a hassle. With that being said, for people that are starting to go into web development, this is kind of how this is laid out, and it's also a pain in the ass. I was a web developer. I started off an intern, then I was kind of gradually going into not being an intern. But then I kind of just, after that year of not being an intern, I kind of just said, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I was focused more on security. But I'll tell you what you're going to do if you become a entry-level web developer. You're going to do all the grunt work. You're going to be the bug fix guy. That's pretty much what you're going to do. And you're going to do that for a long time before they think that you're good enough to become an intermediate developer, like a full developer or a senior developer. You're not going to be doing anything. So you're going to be looked at as a peon, right? So you got all of the bug fixes and things for the sites that needed to be done, like calendars, and trying to go in and fix whatever was wrong with the calendar or why it didn't work. Also make sure that it looks good. But mainly a lot of the stuff was done in JavaScript.
Right.
And this application or this framework was using Python, which is using Django. So a lot of the stuff was in Python, but also a lot of it was using a JavaScript language called Dojo, which was horrible, by the way. And the pain that it was to just fix one thing was it took weeks and weeks. And not because I wasn't good at doing it, but because I wanted to understand how the fuck somebody wrote this code. And then the person that wrote the code, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I got to go through tons and tons of code and lines of code just to get to the issue. And then I have to go ask tons and tons of people, why the fuck did they write it this way? And before I actually have a good fix that actually worked, because when I fixed something, I thought I fixed something, it broke something else. And the code was legacy code at that. So it was a pain in the ass. And every time I went to do a new fix, because we had a ticket system, right? We would go view a ticket, and there was a ticket put in from a customer, client, whatever. And I was the one that had to fix whatever the issues were. While the senior developers were actually developing, I wasn't developing. I was fixing code. So I was the bug fixer. That's pretty much what you are. To me, it reminds me of just a web technician. You might as well call yourself a technician. You're fixing bugs all day. And that was so boring to me because all my time was spent fixing bugs and working with a mentor. And this mentor kind of went to Stack Overflow time and time again. There was no good intricacy, like helping me grow as a developer. There was just nothing. And it was so boring that I started focusing on their security. because the security guy was an old ass guy that looked like he was from the 1980s, 1970s. And I know a lot of, if I remember this guy's name, I know a lot of guys you've probably seen this guy before. If you've ever went to just at least one conference, this guy be there. But he dressed like, and looks like with long hair. He looks like he's from the 1980s, and he doesn't know what he's doing. Really doesn't, because I found so many holes in this company's security that I would tell them, and it's like, well, that's not your job. I was like, yeah, but as a web developer, you should be building in security by design, not, but they didn't give a shit. My boss did not care about the security of the product. That was not his job. Our job was to fix the product, and it was the security team's job to do that. And the security team wasn't application developers. They weren't application security people. They were more of an infrastructure security than anything. It was not good. And more than likely, and 100% of the time, when you go in to get your first web developer job, you're going to probably be the bug fix guy before you become that expert person or the intermediate developer you should be, or a senior. It's going to take you a while, right? And if that doesn't bother you, how about the code reviews? The code reviews, which is good having code reviews, but I mean, I guess you should also have the code reviews of your development team, but also security code reviews. We didn't do any of that, but I had more code reviews for small little things, and I would follow whatever the code, the person who did it the last time. I would also have my mentor look over it. Then I would go put it in the code review. And then the senior developer, 2 of them had to review it and approve it. And they would go through and say, oh, we don't like this. You need to put this like this. The one guy says, I go do that, return it in. The other guy says, I don't like that. It should be like this. You're wasting space and memory with these multiple different variables. Put it down a little bit. Make it to 1. And I'm like, make it a his name scheme. I said, okay, again, this other guy told me to do this. My mentor told me to do that. And now you're telling me to do this. I hate code reviews. I hate anything that deals with quality assurance because it's everybody's preference and nobody's like really understanding that everybody has a different style of doing things. Now, it's a difference between having a standard and you're trying to follow that standard. But when you have 2 people that have multiple different ways of doing it, it's just, what do you do?
That's true. That's why a good development team of any kind has a style guide, and they have very strict style rules, which still allows you to be an artist as far as how your code is written and developed, but it defines and refines what it is that everyone puts out so that it's easier for everyone to read, it's easier to scan for any kinds of issues, and it's easier to write. I'll tell you, what I've seen is you'll get a lot of people who have art degrees, actually, generally art degrees, who become website developers, and they actually won't get paid much. In fact, even if you have a computer science degree and become a website developer, typically you just don't get paid much.
Oh, no. Suck.
And that's actually what drags down the average pay and the median pay within IT, within development, is the website developers. All the website people, period, be they the designers or developers, they drag that median salary down hard. It's actually pretty crazy.
It's funny you say that because one of my friends, he was basically not even a web guy. He was a designer. So he designed, whatever you want, in Photoshops and stuff. He designed a lot of arts and a lot of different things. He got into web design, but more likely he also had to do the programming side as well. So, and then he also did web administration. So that was a whole total thing that he had to do for this one company. It's a smaller company, but he went from 30,000 to 60,000, which is not bad because most people probably won't reach the 60,000.
Right.
But on average, I told him, you're not going to go any further than that. Like, and even if you got to a bigger company, even if they put you up a couple of, maybe 70,000, if that, maybe 70, 80,000. I mean, you're not going to you're not going to be in the 6 figures or anything else. They're not going to even move you there. And they might not even give you that. Like I said, you might just get a $10,000 raise for that. But they look at web development as a joke.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to create that now they made it so easy that it's not hard to do.
Right.
So why would I pay you somebody this much money when it's easy for the company to do?
Right. Well, and that's one of the big things to remember. With most jobs where there's a very low barrier to entry, you'll get low salaries commensurate with that. And in a lot of cases, you'll actually get the career field flooded. You don't see that there are some exceptions like garbage men. They make actually good money.
Yes. Ain't that crazy? Sanitation engineers make more money. The people that clean the poop make more money. I just seen that the other day, that like the people that go out to the sewage and different stuff, they're almost commencing $100,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because nobody wants to do that job.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's the thing that you need to remember if you're ever looking and you're saying, okay, I want to get into this field. A part of the field that is a low barrier to entry is a great way to get into the field. It's not necessarily a great way to get money, and it's not necessarily actually a great way to expand into the field. We talk about this from time to time when you talk about your threat hunters, which is, again, low barrier to entry, SOC analyst, or if you're talking about something like an incident responder. All of those have very low barriers to entry. You oftentimes can do them. If you have a high school diploma, you don't typically need much more than that. And that means that since a lot of people hear that IT is so lucrative, that's where they're going, because I got an art degree and it's hard to get a job as an English teacher, or I didn't like being an English teacher, or it's hard to get a job in journalism, whatever it happens to be. So you switch over, you become a website developer or what have you. Your pay's not going to be great because the part of the industry you're in has that low barrier to entry. And a lot of people think it's the way to make money, so that's where they all rush to. You're going to spend the whole time going, where's my money? Now, there's a minor difference if you're on an application, if you're on a team that develops applications that use a web front end. But even then, it's still going to be relatively low pay. And I'll tell you, to what you were saying, working with browsers is the worst because every browser has their own idiosyncrasies. They all interpret the specifications and requirements completely differently. And that's actually one of the biggest reasons why I hate the UI side of things.
Man, it is a pain in the ass, especially if you're trying to make your application responsive, especially for mobile. Mm-hmm. And you have these different browsers that view different things different ways, even your font sizes, from your font sizes all the way down to the way your site looks, icons, everything. Oh man. So you got to make sure that you have everything in there right for each browser to recognize. So you got to put in the metadata for this and different things for that to make sure that it recognizes these different things and it doesn't turn up when it looks one browser like Firefox. It looks great. Then you go to Internet Explorer and it looks like shit. It looks like it's back in the 1970s or 80s or something like that. And you're like, what the fuck? So,
it's all dots.
It's very, very, it could be a headache. That's what I say. It could be a very pain in the ass. But if it's something you like, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Nobody's telling you not to go with your heart or go with something that you love. And to be honest, I kind of love a lot of different things. And I knew that if I couldn't do robotics and engineering, if I wasn't going to do that and spend all of that time, then web development was something I was really good at. I can create with like that. And that's something you want to go for, go for it. Mm-hmm. I found that I made more money doing it freelance than I did actually doing it at a job.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was actually going to bring up that a lot of people wind up freelancing, and you're exactly right. That's why it's a lot harder to do. Mm-hmm. But there is a little more money to be had if you're freelancing.
And you don't even have to go with big companies. Mm-hmm. It could be small companies. A lot of these small companies are looking for somebody to develop sites. And that's where a lot of the time my side work, I'll do sites for small companies and I make way more money. That's a lump sum of money than I would make doing it with, a company. And then, like I said, I do not only the website development and the back end work, I also do the administration of the site as well. and I charge them a fee for that if I have to update or do anything, because a lot of the people don't understand it. Also, building an administration panel for them is an extra charge as well. So I make a lot more money than I would do at a company. So why would I go work for a company, do web development, when I could just do it for other people?
Yeah.
So I've done sites for a lot of people. Even it doesn't matter who they are, rappers, little company tattoo spots everywhere. And like I said, I make way more money. I mean, way more money freelancing. And then, like I said, you don't have to do that. You can do big companies too. Big companies are looking for it, but a lot of them small companies I notice will pay you more for, the stuff that they need than the bigger companies. The bigger companies, they don't. I mean, they have a team of people, so why would they want to pay you all of this money?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know why they would come to you anyway, but maybe they like about your design and how you do your designs of your applications. But I noticed that a lot of the smaller companies pay very well.
So out of curiosity, and on that note, what have you noticed with regard to when WYSIWYGs first came out and when the CMSes first came out? A lot of people said, oh, that'll be the death of the website developer. I mean, what have you seen in that regard? Have they disappeared? Have they decreased? Is it the same?
No, it made it easier for them to finesse people. That's what I see. Because see, companies that come to you, they don't understand. That's why I'm kind of that guy that I don't want my clients to feel like they can't, there's something they can't do. I'm not trying to not make my money. I'm not trying to, say, you could do this on your own and not make the money.
Right.
But I do want them to understand that this is something you can easily do. But then you got to understand, a lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand the intricacies of what it takes to build that. And I'm like, it's really easy, drag and drop.
Mm-hmm.
You see is what you get, but it made it easier for people who are not really good developers, not really good web people at all, to just slap stuff together and call it web development.
Right.
They don't really have to program anything. And then when it comes to time of them, a client asking for something that is not in that, web content or CMS or WordPress or anything, they shit their pants and they need somebody to do it. And that's normally when I come in a lot of the time, because a lot of people, they will do that and they're like, hey man, I know you know how to write code and do this. And I say, yeah, so what's the problem? I don't know how to build this functionality that they want. And like, really? Why are you doing this? So again, that's when it comes down to it, that it's to me, it becomes more of a finesse thing, where it's a lot of people doing web development lately as a freelance thing on the side, and they're finessing their clients out of money because they're making it seem like it's very hard, that they had to, how it is, setting up the front end, figuring out what technologies you want to use with the application, and what's back-end servers or different web servers you want to use that will go with your front end, and then what actual programming language you want to use, and then the databases you want to use to store everything, and then other shit. Like, there's so many different things, and you're talking about months and months, weeks of work if you're doing full stack by yourself, not a team. And that's more money. But now you don't have to do any of that. So you're going to charge somebody. I had a person charge somebody about $30,000 to $40,000 for a website that they did on a content builder. And I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, they paid it and it was okay, but there was no structured database, none of that. Everything was all into that content builder application. And I felt that was overcharging. I felt that if the client really knew what you really did, they would probably be pissed off, and that's what I think. I think web development, there's no technical barrier to entry, especially now. Then I felt that at least you had to understand certain things, but it was still easy to understand. But it's no technical barrier to entry for this. You can start building websites right now and start charging people, because a lot of people don't understand applications. They don't understand the web. Most people don't have a computer science degree. They are not developers. And even if they do, a lot of the times they still don't understand certain things. So if you can do it, then I feel like it's a finesse game. Yeah. But me, I don't know. I kind of be realistic. Like, hey, I'll let my clients know, like, hey, you can go this option, and this option means that I do everything from scratch, the way you want it, and it'll be more money. Or you can go the easier option, which will be less money, and that's just using a content builder application. And then where I get the money from is when we do the administration, because they want updates, constant updates, and they don't understand how to go in there and do different things or different functionalities added that I might have to do. So that's kind of where I make a little bit more money than actually finessing them, saying, hey, I built this site, and if you want to know how it works, or just come back to me and I'll fix it for you. No, I try to let them know, like, hey, you can do this on your own. Mm-hmm. But if you want me to do this, this is how much I'll charge you.
Well, and I think I'll just finish off my piece by saying what I do know is, as far as mobility outside of, so if you enter the field and you're doing website development and you're trying to do it as a job, not as a means to make just a little extra money on the side, which, by the way, is perfectly legitimate and anyone can. Most people could do it. So if you're someone working from home or you're a stay-at-home parent, feel free to pick up some books, read some stuff, work some tutorials, and try to see if that's a way you can maybe pick up some extra cash. But if you're trying to get into IT, that's not the best way, because unless you have a degree that people respect, you're going to get pigeonholed into the website development sphere, and it's incredibly hard to get out of because it really isn't taken seriously, as you said.
My thought is nothing wrong with learning web development, but learn the application side, learn how to build applications, because they're still taking some of that web development knowledge to build in applications. Like, they still use CSS in certain applications. They still use different things. Not all applications, but most applications are integrating that into their application for the front end. So you can still be like, I took my web development skills and I was used it for applications. I can still create amazing front ends applications. That doesn't mean that you can't do that. Now, you'll get paid a little bit more learning the application side than actually doing the web development side. It's way better. So if you're going to do that and you don't like that you're not getting much money, transition over to the application side, learn real programming languages, not scripting languages, understand them, and then start building an application, and you'll make a lot more money, because that's where it's at.
Yeah.
It's not the web development stuff anymore. Like, maybe when the boom happened, that was the thing, but not now.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you'll still be able to design. If back end is what you like, you'll be able to do back end, or if you like to have that pretty UI and user experience, you can do it there too. It's a little more hardcore, but it's better.
Well, that is our series of what it's like to be a web developer. I'm Raniel.
I'm Duran.
And if you do like this content, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this one. And we will have more What It's Like to Be series coming very, very soon. And also, if you haven't already, get you some Wawa. Sorry, keeps blanking out. Pure Life, good water. And so until the next time,
have fun.